Hey Sarah,
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, well, thank you. So where this first started from was where we actually had in another part of MLA, Alan was had been we got Alan to help us facilitate. We had really wanted independence, someone to keep us on track, but facilitating quite a large group at times. So that's really where we saw, I guess, Alan's skills, but also the tools that Hargraves had in action. So that got us having some more direct conversations with Alan on what we could do. We talked about staff engagement. So how do we upskill our own staff to be better equipped to be either doing some of that facilitation themselves, or just be even more engaged in what we're doing as a business. So that was sort of one part of it. But the other part was we are running a lot of stakeholder consultations and meetings like the one that Alan facilitated for us. And so we're looking to sort of get better equipped with how we could better get a better outcome from some of those stakeholder consultations as well. So Alan came along and actually did facilitate quite a few stakeholder meetings for us, but at the same time was I guess also training us to be able to how to take those things on ourselves. And so we could be doing that in whatever situation we might be in. And that's where some of the tools have really helped us get very efficient at that, rather than just having these big, broad conversations about, well, what does everyone want? And what's the most important thing to you, which just goes around and around in circles. And the
Okay.
other part probably would be just more from a internally, if we've been looking to do, say, upgrades or enhancements to the products that we offer so the client gets a better experience. But sometimes it's been a bit hard to know where to start or what's the most important thing to be focusing our efforts and attention on to. So I think some of the tools that have been good for some of those stakeholder meetings are actually been quite good for ourselves internally to get focus.
Now, in terms of what you did yourselves, you watched Alan do the collaborator and then the perception mapping. Were there any other tools he used?
One thing that we've been using a lot has been a prioritization matrix type tool where, like I was just mentioning there, is that if we want we look to get industry feedback on what are the most important things to them, and so therefore we can prioritize our investment. And like I said, because can't do everything. So, and just by if you have that just as an open discussion, it's hard to get any resolution, just because the differing views around the room. Well, that's in anything. However, the Alan has equipped us with this prioritization
Perception mapping.
process. Is it called? Is that what he? Is it called perception mapping as well? Yeah. Okay.
So when
Um,
I'll just you get everybody to write down their ideas, then you group them together, and then you put them up and say, if you're going to do this, what would you do next? Is that
oh, so that yes, there's that. But the other one that he showed us is where we have a list of things. So whether that's a list of things we've come up with, or maybe the group did, and then we go. So which one's more important out of A and B,
yeah, yeah,
and then which one's more important out of A and C, and
yeah. That's perception mapping. Yeah.
that's perception mapping too. Okay, so both those things have been really important. So that one
And then
there
well,
around,
you say which one's more important. And then if
yeah,
you're going to do that one, what one would you do next?
yeah, sure. So the part about just even going what one's more important, we've been using that a lot, and the reason that has just worked constantly is it just seems to be able to break down this. So I guess when we
It's
first,
like magic that took.
it's yeah, it just keeps working. So
I know.
um,
I've never seen it not work. It
yeah,
is.
it's and when we go into the process, so I had one just the other week, and where we've got a group of producers and some pretty technical topics that we're trying to talk about, which is why it can just go around in a circle. So we put them on, yeah, a big list, and so the people in the room, when you say we're going to do this process, there's a little bit of eye rolling and a bit of you can see them going, okay, is this really going to work? And when you get through the end, it's amazing how everyone just says that makes sense, and the result all the time comes out and it just seems to always make sense. It becomes very clear what are the high priorities and the low, and it's just so informative. So we've repeated that in many different situations. That's just been so helpful. It just makes us more efficient. So you get to an answer quicker. It's really a robust process now that we've proven it works multiple times. And everyone at the end has always felt really comfortable with the outcome of that. I think it does a bit like some of the other the other mapping stuff is it actually gets everybody involved. So it's not the loudest voices, not the most opinionated, and even if they are, their opinion is equal as everyone else in the room. So I think that really works too. What the other thing I've seen Alan do with us, or we've been involved in, is individuals. We say we might be thinking of what are the things that aren't working, for example. So then we write those down on pieces of paper, but everybody does that individually. So Alan's given us some good techniques around that, about how to get individuals thinking. So you're getting full buy-in from everybody, and some people like to work like that. But then everybody's heard by calling out their item, and others can then join in going, I have the same item. So then you get you start to get a priority already, because there's a pile of those items, or it's becoming a theme. And then going through, okay, well then that what you explained before. So if we do that, well then what comes next? That process has really helped us get that focus part I was talking about before, because the whole team's been engaged in deciding what was the most important thing. The whole team's been engaged in what's the next thing we do. The examples I've seen is quite clear, like the clusters of work that need to happen. And therefore, then we've gone off and sort of created some actions behind that. So that needs to happen. What are the actual tasks to make that happen?
The one where we get people to write things down, and then they talk about it with another person, and they clarify their idea, and then they have a group conversation. We call that co.
Okay.
It's concentrate, cooperate, collaborate. It's three co's. And that's a technique that we use a lot for exactly the purpose that you're talking about, which is to get everybody to hear every voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
That has been effective,
and everybody sees themselves reflected in the outcomes. Any other tools that you've used that Alan has shown you that have been helpful?
Yeah, so the cards that I've actually pulled my blood roots box out just before because even at the simplest of an icebreaker, we've used those as icebreakers. Well, Alan first showed us how he'd use those, and we've continued to use those cards in various workshops, even within MLA and with external groups as well, from just trying to just open up. If people don't know each other, it certainly opens it up without, it's not a subject matter test at all. It's really just, those cards can be anything you want them to be, is what I guess I've learned from Alan.
Have you done the whole collaborator?
Some places we've used it, we've done the whole booklet. Other bits we've time pending, really. We've picked pieces out of it. Yeah, but I've sat in a few different workshops where we have used it. Yeah.
And have you seen that be successful, the process for collaborator?
I think so at the time of the meetings, it really does make, everyone gets engaged, and it's really beneficial. Getting, once you leave any of those types of internal meetings, just making sure someone's accountable. Alan actually helped make us sure of that. Are some things is whose name is against this. So when we leave here today, we actually are going to to follow on with this.
The other question I'd ask, you do some of the facilitating. You have others who are facilitating. Do they find these tools easy to use?
Yeah, it's interesting how a few of us have been directly involved with Alan and being facilitated by Alan, and then we've sort of gone off to do it ourselves. But then we've also shown others. It's like this ripple effect where we've found that something really works for us. We've also shown some others through the company who are now using it too.
So have you found these tools more useful, I suppose, different or unique?
So I think Alan's probably a bit unique like that, or Hargraves is. I haven't seen anyone really use tools like this, which is probably why we've kept coming back to Alan to get his help. I don't know exactly what the difference is. Maybe it's a bit more tactile, I guess, than what we're doing, and probably why the tools, like, whilst they let you to be quite adventurous with them and you can sort of make them work for you, there's still a process, which is probably why it's working.
What we try to do with all our tools is make sure that everybody is engaged, everybody who's in the room. So they're all designed for maximum engagement. Does that work for you?
Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah, that's what I was saying before, whether it's the card or just even the process of everybody writing and so on. I think so. I've never really seen anyone look like they're being left out, so I think you're right. What I have found with the cards, when they're sitting in the room, it sort of does get them thinking a bit more creatively and already setting a bit of a mindset for the day about thinking outside the box and just being a little bit more open and some creative. This is something in particular in the icebreaker side of things is once they get going, the rooms are always loud and everyone's talking, and so it absolutely works.
If you were to describe the impact that the tools, but also training your people to use the tools.
I think the biggest changes I've seen is we get much better whole of group engagement. We capture everybody's thoughts, and everybody's thoughts are valued and equal. I feel that probably one of the biggest breakthroughs for us is that we're able to break down what can be seen as really complex challenges into some really logical steps, or really really understanding what are industry's priorities through what could be seen as a very simple process to get to that point, but it's just a really robust process. So, we're not unique in dealing with complex challenges, but at times it feels like you're not entirely sure even how to tackle some of these things. But some of the processes that we've been able to use through Collaborator and the other skills that Alan has given us has really made us be able to do that. And because we've done it now multiple times in the same sort of forums and with the same type of stakeholder groups, we've got a real confidence and belief in that this works. And it's driving from an impact for us that is actually helping us decide where to put our money. So at the end of the day, it actually does have an important value for us because we're making some financial decisions on the outcomes of some of these processes.
The other tool that we have is canvases, where we have those question canvases, the Q tools.
Yeah.
They're just a different way. We either have them on the flow cards,
right,
or the question canvases or Q tools, which are just a set of questions that help people to articulate what their priorities might be.
And is that where do you pick out
you pick out the things that matters for you,
and then the things that don't, you move that card, give that card off? Yes, we have done that.
Because they're very often about how do you build collaboration or how do you build diversity. So it's about sort of the internal improvements in your or how do you build leadership, or how do you build resilience. The rationale behind that is similar to what you've spoken about, is that often people either haven't thought of something or feel a bit afraid to articulate something. And if they have it there as a question, they have permission to bring it up.
That's a really good way to describe it. You're right, because the words are already there. So then,
the words are there, and they can sort of say, well, this is something I really care about, but I wouldn't have A, thought to say it, or B, be, courageous enough to say it.
Yes.
So, and the canvases can be used for internal sort of appraisals of if you're doing an appraisal with somebody in a feedback session with.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't thought about them in that.
So you can actually give them to the person you're going to have the conversation with, and they can say, this is what I want to talk about. And you can say, this is what I want to talk about. And then
Okay. I hadn't thought about them in that context. I could see how that would work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gives you something to start with, and then you can add to them, you can change them, you can do whatever you like. They're just prompt
Yes.
questions, really. But
Yeah.
they're there to start a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can try that out and see if it works.
I will. Yeah.
That's fantastic, Sarah. Thank you very much.
No problems at all.